The classroom smelled faintly of chalk and old paper, a scent that had clung to the walls for decades. I lingered by the open window, pretending to look at the fading sunlight spilling across the campus courtyard, but in truth, I was waiting. She had asked me to stay after class. Her. Ms. Elena Marlowe, the woman who had been my professor for only a few weeks, yet who had already managed to crawl under my skin in ways I couldn't explain. She wasn't like the others. Where most teachers came across as formal, detached, ticking off requirements, she exuded something else entirely, a presence that unsettled me. It was in the way her voice dropped when she wanted silence, the way her eyes seemed to strip excuses bare before you even formed them. She was in her early 40s, at least twice my age, but that difference didn't dilute her allure. If anything, it magnified it. She carried authority like a tailored suit, precise and commanding, yet her movements suggested something deliberately restrained, as if a storm lived behind her calm. When she finally closed the door behind the last student, the quiet hit me harder than I expected. "Mr. Hale," she said, setting a neat stack of papers onto the desk. "Stay." The command was simple, flat, yet it rolled through me with a weight I couldn't ignore. "Yes, Ms. Marlowe," I muttered, my throat suddenly dry. She sat on the edge of her desk, folding her arms loosely. Her gaze landed on me, steady, analytical, but not unkind. "You've been distracted," she said. "Not inattentive. Just distracted. Your answers are sharp, but your focus wavers." I swallowed. She notices everything. "I guess I've had a lot on my mind," I said, fumbling for a neutral tone. Her lips curved, not quite into a smile. "You're 24, aren't you? That excuse usually works for students younger than you. But I don't buy it. You don't strike me as a boy." The air thickened. Was she teasing me? Or was this just her way cutting through pretenses? "I try not to be," I said, my voice firmer now. Her eyebrow arched. "Good." Silence stretched, not uncomfortable, but heavy, like a thread pulled taut. I found myself unable to look away from her, the sharp lines of her cheekbones, the way her dark hair framed her face, the quiet authority in her posture. She was beautiful, but not in the polished, magazine cover way. She was beautiful like a dangerous idea you couldn't stop circling back to. She leaned forward slightly. "Do you know why I asked you to stay?" "No," I admitted, though my pulse told me otherwise. Her gaze flickered down my frame, then back up, not lasciviously, but assessing, like she was measuring not my body, but my reaction to being observed. "I want to see how far I can push you," she said softly. My breath caught. For a moment, I thought I had misheard. But her expression remained calm, deliberate, as if daring me to question her. "Push me?" I asked carefully. "Yes." She uncrossed her arms, gesturing vaguely at the empty classroom. "Most students are predictable. They either resist me with arrogance, or they fold under pressure. But you hesitate. You test the line, but you don't cross it. That makes you interesting." I shifted in my seat, unsure whether I was being evaluated or seduced. "And what if I don't want to be pushed?" I asked, my voice lower than intended. Her smile finally appeared, sharp and knowing. "Then you wouldn't still be here." Heat surged through me, part embarrassment, part something darker. She was right. I was still here. And every second stretched the boundary of propriety thinner. That night became the beginning of something I hadn't anticipated. She didn't touch me. She didn't even move from her desk. But the conversation unraveled with a strange intimacy, as though words themselves could peel layers away. She asked about my ambitions. I told her I wanted more than the safe career paths my peers pursued. She pressed, asking why I avoided comfort, why I seemed addicted to risk. Her questions didn't feel academic, they felt personal, like she was mapping out my weaknesses, sketching the contours of my mind. And I answered. God help me, I answered more honestly than I had with anyone in years. When I admitted that control or the lack of it was something I feared, her expression shifted. Control, she repeated. Interesting. Most men your age boast about it. You admit to fearing it. The word lingered in the air like smoke. What about you? I asked before I could stop myself. Do you fear losing control? Her eyes glinted. On the contrary. I've spent a lifetime mastering it. Her tone sent a shiver down my spine. By the time I left the classroom, the halls were dark and empty. My head swam with her words, with the subtle but undeniable charge that had passed between us. I told myself it was just intellectual, that she enjoyed provoking thought, that her interest in me was academic, nothing more. But deep down, I knew better. And when I caught my reflection in the glass doors on my way out, I didn't see the composed student she had addressed. I saw someone unraveling, someone caught in a game he hadn't realized had begun. The days that followed only tightened the knot. In lectures, she rarely looked at me directly, but when she did, it was never casual. Her eyes lingered a beat too long, her comments felt pointed, as though tailored for me alone. Other students noticed. Some joked that Ms. Marlowe had found her teacher's pet. But none of them understood the undercurrent, the quiet electricity that hummed beneath her calm exterior whenever her gaze locked with mine. One afternoon, she handed back essays. Mine came with a note in the margin. You write like someone who hides his hunger. Why? My chest tightened. It wasn't feedback. It was a provocation. Later, when I lingered after class again uninvited, this time she didn't send me away. Instead, she tilted her head, amused. You're beginning to follow the thread, she said. What thread? I asked. The one I'm pulling. She stood then, walking past me slowly, deliberately, the click of her heels echoing in the quiet. For the first time, I caught a faint trace of her perfume, something sharp and floral, like a garden laced with steel. She stopped behind me, close enough that I felt the heat of her presence. You want to understand control, she murmured. Then let me show you. But only if you're brave enough to let me. My pulse thundered. I didn't answer. Not yet. But my silence wasn't resistance. It was permission, the kind you give when you've already decided to step into the fire. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts looped around her words, her gaze, the way she dismantled me without lifting a finger. It wasn't just attraction. It was surrender disguised as curiosity. And though I didn't know where this path led, part of me prayed it wouldn't stop at words alone. The library was nearly empty when I saw her again. I hadn't planned it. At least, that's what I told myself as I drifted down the aisles, pretending to look for books I didn't need. She sat at a corner table, glasses balanced on the bridge of her nose, a pen moving swiftly across a stack of essays. Her posture was immaculate, her focus unwavering. Even here, in the hushed anonymity of the library, she radiated authority. I should have walked past. But instead, I lingered. Her eyes flicked up. For a second, she didn't react, as though she hadn't registered me. Then, slowly, she slid her glasses down and offered a look that made the air thicken. "Mr. Hale," she said, voice hushed yet carrying effortlessly. "You seem to have a habit of showing up where I least expect you." "Or maybe where you expect me most," I countered. Her lips curved into a ghost of a smile. "Careful." That sounded almost bold. I sat across from her, my pulse racing. "Maybe I'm learning." She set her pen down, folding her hands. "And what exactly are you learning?" "That you like testing me," I said. "And maybe I like it more than I should." Her gaze sharpened, as though my words had been a key turning in the lock she'd been waiting for. "Finally," she murmured. That night, she invited me to her office under the pretense of discussing my research proposal. It was late, the campus was quiet, the halls dim. Her office smelled faintly of leather and old books, with the soft glow of a desk lamp painting shadows across the shelves. She motioned for me to sit. I obeyed, though my chest was tight with anticipation. "You asked me last time if I fear losing control," she said, settling into her chair. "The answer is no. But there's something more interesting than control itself." I leaned forward. "What's that?" She held my gaze. "Teaching someone else to surrender to it." The words landed like sparks in dry grass. Her voice lowered. "Control isn't just about power. It's about trust. You can't dominate someone who isn't willing. The true act of submission is a gift." I swallowed hard. "And what if I'm not sure I can give it?" Her smile was patient, knowing. "Then we'll find out together." Slowly. She began with small things. "Don't speak until I ask you a question. Sit still while I walk around you. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Always." Each instruction was simple, almost trivial. Yet obeying them filled me with an odd heat, a rush that felt equal parts fear and exhilaration. I realized then that it wasn't the commands themselves, it was the act of yielding, the silent acknowledgement that she was steering, and I was letting her. "You hesitate," she said one evening, circling behind me. "But you don't disobey. Do you know what that tells me? That I'm conflicted. That you crave permission to let go." Her words left me raw, exposed. She wasn't wrong. For years I'd clung to the illusion of control, making decisions, chasing risks, pretending I was untouchable. But in her presence, I wanted the opposite. I wanted to be seen, stripped of the armor I wore in front of everyone else. And she knew it. She saw it before I did. The tension between us grew, coiling tighter with each encounter. In class, she remained professional, her tone clipped, her comments precise. But in private, her presence shifted, softer at times, sharper at others, like she was sculpting me into something I didn't yet recognize. One night, as I lingered in her office again, she studied me in silence before asking, "Do you know why I chose you?" "Because I let you." I guessed. Her smile was faint but approving. "Partly. But also because you see me." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She leaned back, folding her arms. "Most students see the title. The authority. They don't see the woman. You do. And that makes this dangerous, but irresistible." The confession stunned me. She wasn't just testing me, she was exposing herself, too. Not weakness, but vulnerability cloaked in steel. Before I could reply, she stood and moved closer, her eyes locked on mine. "Stand up," she said softly. I obeyed. She circled me once, like a predator assessing prey, though there was nothing predatory in her touch because she didn't touch me. She didn't need to. Her proximity alone was electric. "Hands behind your back," she murmured. My heart pounded, but I obeyed. "Close your eyes." Darkness swallowed me, heightening every sound, every shift of air as she moved. "You trust me?" she asked. "Yes." Silence. Then, warm breath brushed my ear. "Good. Because trust is the only reason I haven't crossed lines we can't return from." Her restraint was maddening and intoxicating. She never kissed me, never touched me beyond a brush of her hand on my shoulder or a fleeting graze of her fingers as she handed me a book. But those fragments were enough to haunt me. I began to crave not the act itself, but the anticipation. The way she left me suspended, caught between what was and what might be. And then, one evening, she shifted the game. "You've proven you can follow me," she said, her tone steady. "Now I want to see how you handle temptation." "How?" I asked, wary yet eager. Her eyes glinted. "By bringing someone else into this." The words hit me like a spark to gasoline. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly. "Submission isn't just about you and me. It's about what you allow, what you endure, what you reveal when someone else is watching. I want to see how far your trust stretches." My breath caught. Was she suggesting? "I'm not asking for an answer tonight," she said, her voice velvet over steel. "But think about it. If you let me, I'll show you what control truly means, not just between two people, but three." The room tilted, the weight of her words sinking in. Part of me burned with desire, the other with fear. And yet, as always, my silence wasn't resistance. It was permission. The idea festered in my mind for days. "I want to see how far your trust stretches." Her words echoed whenever I tried to sleep. The thought of someone else, another presence in what I'd come to believe was our secret world, unsettled me. Yet, disturbingly, it also intrigued me. One evening, after class, she lingered as usual, waiting until the last student had gone. She didn't invite me to her office this time. Instead, she led me down the corridor, past locked doors and fading bulletin boards, to a smaller room I had never noticed before. When she opened the door, a figure was already inside. A woman. Younger than her, maybe late 20s, seated casually on the edge of a table. Her hair was short and sleek, her posture confident, her eyes carrying the same sharp glint I recognized in Ms. Marlowe's. "This is Clara," Ms. Marlowe said. Her tone was calm, measured, as though she were introducing a guest lecturer. "She's an old friend." Clara's lips curved in a slow smile. "So this is the student you've been talking about?" Heat crawled up my neck. "Talking? About me?" Ms. Marlowe's gaze didn't waver. "Yes. And tonight, I want you to see him for yourself." The weight of her words pressed down on me. My chest tightened, torn between curiosity and a sudden, sharp edge of jealousy. "Why me?" I asked quietly. Clara tilted her head. "Because she trusts me," she said simply. "And because she wants to see if you can." The session began like the others, with rules. "Stand," Ms. Marlowe instructed. "Hands behind your back. Eyes forward." I obeyed, my pulse hammering in my ears. Clara circled me slowly, her gaze assessing, almost clinical. "He's tense," Clara observed. "He always is at first," Ms. Marlowe replied. "But he learns quickly." Their voices carried a strange rhythm, almost like two musicians playing in harmony. I was caught in the middle, uncertain whether I was the instrument or the audience. "Do you like being watched?" Clara asked, her tone soft but cutting. I hesitated, then admitted, "I don't know yet." Her smile deepened. "Honest?" "I like him." Ms. Marlowe stepped closer, her presence grounding me. "Remember what I told you," she murmured. "Control is nothing without trust. Tonight, I want to see if you can extend that trust to her as well." The challenge was clear. It wasn't about desire, not yet. It was about surrender. For the next hour, they tested me together. Clara asked questions that cut deeper than I expected. "What scares you more, disappointing her, or losing her?" Ms. Marlowe adjusted the rules as the tension built. "Answer quickly." No hesitation. They moved in tandem, one pressing, the other observing, as though orchestrating a performance with me at its center. At one point, Clara leaned close, her voice low. "Do you know how rare it is for her to share? She doesn't let just anyone into her world. The fact that you're here means something." Her words struck me harder than I anticipated. This wasn't just about games or control, it was about being chosen. The breaking point came when Ms. Marlowe asked, "Do you trust me enough to let her lead, just for a moment?" My chest tightened. Until now, everything had been tethered to her. She was my anchor, my constant. To hand that thread to someone else felt unthinkable. But her gaze was steady, unyielding. "Yes," I whispered. She stepped back. "Then show me." Clara moved closer, her presence sharp and different, not softer, not harsher, just other. She didn't mimic Ms. Marlowe. She carved her own space, her own rhythm. "Look at me," Clara commanded. I did. Her eyes searched mine, probing, testing. For a moment, I thought she'd break me, that I'd falter under her scrutiny. But then she smiled faintly, satisfied. "You'll do," she said. The words shouldn't have mattered. But they did. When it ended, I was trembling, not from exhaustion, but from the raw intensity of it all. Ms. Marlowe dismissed Clara with a simple nod. No words passed between them beyond that, but something unspoken lingered, a bond I couldn't decipher. Once we were alone, she approached me slowly. "You did well," she said, her voice softer now. I swallowed hard. "I didn't think I could." "That's why I pushed you," she replied. "Because you don't know your own limits. Not until I show them to you." Her hand brushed my shoulder, the barest contact, yet it sent a shiver through me. "And this is only the beginning," she added. That night, as I walked home through the dimly lit streets, my thoughts spun wildly. Jealousy. Desire. Fear. Trust. The presence of Clara had shaken me, but it had also awakened something I hadn't realized. I craved the sense of being tested not just by one, but by two forces, each pulling at me from different angles. I was caught between them, bound not by chains, but by choice. And the terrifying part? I wanted more. The following days blurred into restless nights. Clara's presence haunted me not because of what she did, but because of what she represented. Until then, Ms. Marlowe had been my compass. Every look, every word, every pause between sentences was a thread she pulled, guiding me deeper into her world. But Clara had been a disruption. A second orbit. A gravitational pull that unsettled everything I thought was stable. And worse, part of me liked it. I didn't see Clara again right away. But I felt her shadow in every interaction. When Ms. Marlowe studied me across her office desk, I wondered if she was comparing me to Clara's judgment. When she gave me an instruction, I hesitated not out of defiance, but because I imagined Clara's voice overlapping hers. And Ms. Marlowe noticed. She always noticed. "You're distracted," she said one evening, her tone clipped. I tried to steady myself. "I'm not. Don't lie to me." Her voice cracked like a whip, sharp but not raised. "You're questioning. That's fine. But you're also doubting. That's dangerous." I lowered my gaze. "It's hard not to." She leaned closer across the desk, her eyes narrowing. "Jealousy." The word stung because it was true. "Maybe," I admitted. Her silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. Then, at last, she spoke. "Good." My head snapped up. "Good." "Yes." She rose, pacing slowly around me. "Jealousy means you care. It means you've invested yourself. It means you have something to lose. That makes you vulnerable and that makes you real." Her words should have calmed me, but instead they tightened the knot in my chest. Vulnerability wasn't comfort. Vulnerability was exposure. And exposure could shatter me. The tension finally broke one night when Clara returned. This time, it wasn't in a hidden room or a prep-lawn meeting. She appeared in the office, casual as ever, leaning against the doorframe with that same sly smile. "Did you miss me?" she asked. I froze. Ms. Marlowe, however, didn't flinch. "He's unsettled," she told Clara. "I want you to see why." I bristled. "You talk about me like I'm not even here." "Because you haven't decided where you are yet," Ms. Marlowe countered. The words cut deep. Clara stepped closer, folding her arms. "He's torn between wanting all of you and fearing he has to share." My pulse quickened. "Wouldn't you be?" Clara tilted her head. "Maybe. But you forget she doesn't share easily. If she's sharing you, it's not because you're weak. It's because you're worth testing." Ms. Marlowe's gaze sharpened. "And tests aren't supposed to feel comfortable." That night was different. They didn't orchestrate rules or commands. Instead, they pressed me with questions, harder and faster than before. "What are you most afraid of losing? Do you want her because of who she is, or because of the way she makes you feel? If she walked away right now, would you fight for her or let her go?" Each question hit like a hammer, chipping away at the fragile shell I'd built around myself. And every answer I gave felt like stepping deeper into a labyrinth with no map. Finally, I broke. "I don't know if I can do this," I confessed, my voice cracking. Silence followed. Heavy. Unforgiving. Clara exchanged a glance with Ms. Marlowe, a glance that carried more weight than words. And then, for the first time, Ms. Marlowe's composure faltered. "You think I haven't asked myself the same," she said quietly. The admission stunned me. She, the woman who had orchestrated every step, who seemed unshakable, was confessing doubt? She stepped closer, her voice softer now. "I built my life on control. On discipline. On never letting anyone close enough to break me. And then you appeared. Do you understand how dangerous that is for me?" Her words hit harder than any command. She wasn't just testing me. She was risking herself. Clara smiled faintly. Finally, she murmured. "You both see it now. The game isn't about control anymore. It's about surrender. That night didn't end with clarity. It ended with silence, the kind that clung to the air even after I left. I walked the empty streets with my mind racing, torn between fear and desire, jealousy and devotion. Was I strong enough to give myself to her completely? Was she strong enough to accept what that meant? And where did Clara fit into all of it? The cracks in the glass were spreading. And I didn't know if we would shatter or become something unbreakable. The storm had been building for weeks. Every glance, every unspoken word, every test of will tightened the coil until it could no longer hold. I arrived at her office one evening to find both of them waiting. Ms. Marlowe sat behind her desk, composed as always, though there was a tension in her posture I had never seen before. Clara leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, watching me with quiet amusement. The air was different tonight. Heavier. Final. "Close the door," Ms. Marlowe said. I obeyed, my pulse thundering. She folded her hands, studying me with that familiar, piercing gaze. "You've come far," she said. "Further than I expected. But tonight, I need an answer." My throat tightened. "An answer to what?" "To whether you belong to this," she said. "To me. To us. To what we've built, fragile, dangerous, intoxicating as it is. Because if you can't, then it ends here." The words struck like a blade. Clara stepped forward, her eyes sharp but not unkind. "This isn't a game anymore." She doesn't share herself lightly. Neither do I. If you stay, you accepted all the control, the surrender, the jealousy, the trust. You can't pick and choose. The silence that followed was suffocating. I felt the weight of both their gazes. Two forces pulling me apart, yet somehow also holding me together. I thought of the nights I'd lain awake, haunted by their words. I thought of the way my chest burned when Ms. Marlowe looked at me, the way my pulse raced when Clara tested me. I thought of the fear, the raw, gnawing fear of losing either of them. And then I realized, fear wasn't the enemy. Fear was the proof. I stepped forward, meeting Ms. Marlowe's eyes. "I choose this," I said, my voice steady. "I choose you. Both of you. Whatever it means. Whatever it costs." Her composure cracked, just slightly enough for me to see the flicker of relief, of hunger, of something dangerously close to affection. Clara's smile curved slowly. Finally. That night was unlike anything before. There were no essays, no lectures, no academic pretense. Only the raw, unvarnished truth of what we had become. Ms. Marlowe shed her armor piece by piece, not clothes, but the invisible barriers she'd built her whole life. She let me see her not as the professor, not as the untouchable figure of authority, but as a woman who wanted, who risked, who trembled beneath her own control. Clara pressed us both, not with cruelty but with precision. She pushed me to prove my devotion, pushed Ms. Marlowe to accept it. She was the catalyst, the sharp edge that forced us past hesitation into revelation. At one point, when the tension was nearly unbearable, Ms. Marlowe whispered, "Do you know what terrifies me most?" "No," I breathed. "That one day you'll stop obeying," she said. "Not because you don't want to, but because you've outgrown me." The confession shattered something in me. I had thought she was unshakable, unbreakable. But here she was, confessing the same fear I carried in silence. I took her hand the first time I had reached for her instead of the other way around. "That will never happen," I said. "Because I don't want to outgrow you. I want to grow with you." Her eyes glistened. For the first time, she kissed me, not commanding, not restrained, but fierce and hungry, a culmination of everything we had withheld. Clara watched, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, satisfied. Now you understand. The weeks that followed blurred into a rhythm only we understood. By day, Ms. Marlowe was still my professor, precise, disciplined, untouchable. By night, she was something else entirely, both storm and sanctuary, pulling me deeper into her world. Clara came and went like a shadow, sometimes present, sometimes absent, but always lingering in the edges of our connection. She was the reminder that trust wasn't about possession, but about surrendering without guarantees. It wasn't easy. There were nights of jealousy, of doubt, of sharp words and sharper silences. But there were also nights of raw honesty, of laughter that broke tension, of touches that said more than words ever could. We weren't perfect. We weren't safe. But we were real. The last time I stood in that classroom, sunlight spilling through the windows, I realized how far I had come. I was no longer the distracted student staring out the window. I was something else. Someone else. And when Ms. Marlowe's eyes met mine, steady and unyielding, I knew she saw it too. She had taught me control. She had taught me surrender. But most of all, she had taught me that the line between them was where we truly lived.